Alright, so today we're going to be talking about The Lord of the Flies, and just like after finishing the book, what were your first impressions on it?
So, to be honest, I really didn't like the book in the beginning because it had, a lot of, violence and, killing each otherness. But, in the end, when I was, going over it again, actually, looking over the author's intentions, I was, kind of appreciated, how he wrote the book. It's, kind of different, what you would actually expect someone to write it. So I give it, an 8 out of 10, surprisingly.
I mean, yeah, I agree. The violence is kind of scary, but I think it does give good moral lessons, and I think that was kind of the purpose of the book. So let's jump into some of the things tasked to talk about. So I know, Monish, you had a few themes that you saw.
So our first theme is tensions between man's urge for savagery and the controlling nature of civilization. Do you want to elaborate on that, Calvin?
Yeah, sure. So, I think it's important to know the difference between a person's good and evil and how their environment affects them. It's like the saying nature versus nurture. I feel environment affects how a person behaves, and that goes to another sort of theme where a person is naturally born evil, and that civilization keeps them from becoming that evil person. And I thought that I think that theme is really clever and smart as well.
Yeah, and another theme that I found in the book was the only thing that keeps a civilization together, or a group of human beings, is rules and orders. Because without rules or laws or anything, humans are just gonna do whatever they want, just like how the little kids did on the island, killing each other, stabbing them with knives, and it would just be a crazy mess. I can't even imagine the world without any rules or laws. Want to say anything?
Yeah, I mean, you could also see it on the island when Ralph was kind of in charge in the beginning. There was, good order. He was establishing certain people to do certain jobs, but then as time went on, Jack kind of disturbed those rules and orders, and the whole island's organization kind of just fell apart. So yeah, I agree with that theme as well. Let's jump into some character development. I think one person that I feel was sort of the most important in terms of character development was Piggy, because in the beginning he was kind of represented as this, fat, quiet personality that didn't really have any importance to the book's plot. But as time went on, I feel like the reader is able to realize that, he has a lot of significance, as well as his overall support for Ralph, and his death really is a turning point for the entire book. And so it goes from little importance to, wow, he was really important.
Yeah, I would like to add on a few things, saying Piggy, although many people thought he was a very useless guy who looked like he was very dumb, he was honestly one of the only dudes who gave Ralph the ideas to make all the kids a proper civilization, and making sure that everyone is safe. It could be starting the fire, a bunch of other things, and even using the conch as a power of having the right to speak with everyone. So, and even when in the end of the book, when all the other kids, they were jumping onto Jack's civilization, Piggy was one of the only ones who was still supporting Ralph. He was it's okay, we can still do it. And there's a quote in the book which says, "I don't know, Ralph. We just gotta go on. That's all. That's what grown-ups would do," on page 139. So, this quote kind of shows how, Piggy still supports Ralph, and he's "Don't worry, hey, I got your back. We're still gonna, get through this, even though, no one else is supporting us." You know that?
Right, yeah. That, an important concept of the entire book is that Piggy and Ralph are kind of on one side and Jack and Roger on the other side. So let's talk about Jack for a second. Jack is also kind of introduced as sort of the bad guy, but I feel his character also develops in the way where in the beginning he's seen as oh, this kid who's directing all these kids marching, that's pretty cool. But then as time goes on, we kind of associate Jack with the chaos on the island, and every time the author mentions Jack, it's just oh, something bad's gonna happen, and I think that both Jack and Piggy sort of develop on similar um, paths, and that's why the entire plot builds up with them.
Yeah,
Yeah.
like even in the beginning, like when Jack sees like a pig on the island, he was like very tense or like scared to kill it because there was like a wave of nervousness that like took over him or like took over his excitement of killing something. But like after he was like starting to kill a pig, he was like, I'm just gonna go full on. Like he found the pleasure and like the full satisfaction of like actually like brutally killing something or someone as like the book goes on. And then after that he's basically on like a killing spree. He's like a barbarian just killing everything he sees. And, like although Ralph, who's like the leader of the island, he tells Jack to take care of the fire, but he's like, no, I'm not doing that. I wanted to be the leader, but like I wasn't, so I'm not gonna listen to you. I'm just gonna do what I want. And then he was just like a full-on barbarian, just like destroying everyone. He's like all by himself. He's like, I'm gonna do what my mind tells me to do, even if others don't like it or they like it. I'm still gonna do it. Like it just like he's turns into this very cruel character at the end of the book.
Like the interactions between Jack, Ralph, and Piggy, like that's a good way to tie all three of those characters' developments together. And I think that's a good way to end character developments. So I wanted to go into some other stuff that we could talk about, and I think that is still really important in the book of Lord of the Flies by William Golding. And I think the author does a great job of using symbolism to represent the plot in Lord of the Flies. And the biggest symbol I think that's in the book is Piggy's glasses, which he calls them specs. And I thought they kind of represented, like organization, but also just the boy's mental and physical condition. Because in the beginning, first of all, Piggy's specs were kind of the thing that were keeping the entire boys alive, because they were used to start the fire, and without the fire the boys would probably be too mentally or physically distraught to even attempt to survive. So his glasses were really important, and during Jack and Ralph's fight, Piggy gets punched in the face, and one of his glasses, or one of his sides of his glasses, gets punctured, and so he can only see from one eye. And so this is kind of symbolizing the fracture and the disorganization in the group. And later, when Piggy's glasses get stolen, that symbolizes the complete destruction of all, like humane sort of rules and organization on the island, which I think is like a smart and clever way of representing the plot and how the boys are feeling.
Yeah, just like Calvin said, the glasses are like the first thing the author introduces to us as something which keeps this all the kids together, cause that's the first piece of thing that like starts the fire, which makes sure that all the kids are together. They're like one group of boys who have each other's back, but then as the book progresses, the kids just get separated apart, and then when Roger rolls the boulder over, it like kills Simon. It kills Piggy, and his glasses, and like his glasses also get stolen. So we can see like the destruction of like the civilization that's going on, where the boys are not what they were in the beginning of the book. Like, you know what I'm saying, Calvin?
Yeah. That makes sense. And of course, like the entire like development process again with the symbolism. So another really, really important thing about symbolism is the conch, which also represents organization, but also leadership on the island. Initially, Ralph and Piggy discovered the conch, and they used it as sort of like a leadership status or like figure they used, and whoever held it was able to talk. But Jack kind of disturbed this again, and he sort of plunged the entire island into chaos. Eventually, when Roger smashes the conch, that symbolizes the complete destruction of organization and leadership on the island. And the last thing I wanted to point out was the face paint. This is just a small thing, but I think it's also clever how Golding uses the face paint to represent sort of changing to the dark side almost, where you see like the kids slowly putting on the face paint and showing that they're on Jack's side instead of Ralph's side, or they've lost like the rules of civilization.
Yeah, I would also like to say this is something that's in comparison with Coral Island. So the main difference between the two books is in Coral Island, the actual conflict is external. For example, there's like an actual beast that's like going after the kids. But in The Lord of the Flies, the beastie is within the kids themselves. It's internal versus external conflict that we see in both these books when they're compared. Like when I mean internal conflict, I'm like saying that kids are not together. It could be like they're not listening to each other, or the cruelness in them just takes over all their positivity, and they're just like, no, I'm gonna destroy everyone. I want to be the leader, or like I want to be like the boss and show him who's like the king. So that's another thing in the face paint, just like Calvin said. It's where when you put something on your face, you're like covering yourself. Like a face is supposed to be positive and like helping others, but when you're putting a face paint to like blend in with something else, just like Jack and his friends did, they're covering all the positivity that they have and like turning into cruel monsters who are just going around in a killing spree doing whatever they want to. So this is also like another clever symbol that the author used to like show how the boys are not what they used to be.
Right, and like we know it's a connection to the Coral Island because on page 202, the last page of the book, the naval officer actually says, "I know, jolly good show, like the Coral Island," and so this is the key connection between internal and external conflict. And so that really sums up The Lord of the Flies in this one sort of short video. If you want to see more videos, make sure to check out my link in the description below, and I'll see you in the next one. Bye bye.
So, yeah.